what? We're doing another fantasy. Never call me a coward. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel and a happy new year. As I'm filming this, it is January 2nd and I unintentionally started something that I figured could make a really good video idea. So yesterday was January 1st, obviously. That's what comes before the 2nd. And I was just chilling at home, enjoying my day off, and I was like, you know, I'm really in the mood to read. Which, if you know me, I'm a huge mood reader. Like, when inspiration strikes, you gotta, like, get it while it's hot. If I'm in the mood to read, it's like, I'm gonna read, like, a bunch of books back to back because suddenly I lose the will to read and I don't read for, like, 2 months. So I was, like, browsing my shelves. I picked a book. I, like, read it super quick, gave my thoughts on it online. I'm like, you know what? I'm in for another book. So I read 2 books yesterday, and then I was thinking today, I'm like, you know, content creator, how could I make this into content? I mean, I post my reviews on Instagram and stuff, but I'm like, how can I make this into content for YouTube? Because one of my goals for 2025 is to really, like, crack on my YouTube. Get back into being consistent. Like, if TikTok's going away, here's my other platform. I gotta, like, take it up a notch. So I was like, what if I do 5 reads for the first 5 days of 2025? Sounds catchy. Like, go Vesma. So I'm gonna walk you through the 2 books I've read already. It's 2 days in 2025. I have 3 more days to read 3 more books, which at the rate I'm at, easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, so I'm gonna tell you what I've read so far, and then as I read books, I will keep you guys updated. I'll keep, like, so you'll see me in, like, different outfits, different states of emotion depending on what books I'm reading, and I'll give you my thoughts in real time. It's like quick, like, super, like, bite-sized reading vlogs for the 5 books. Obviously didn't do that for these 2 because I didn't think of this video until after I read them. Let me tell you about them though. So yesterday I was just, like, browsing my shelves. I was like, I want a quick read. Spectacular is the Caraval holiday novella. And I was like, perfect, the holidays just ended. I'm still kind of in the mood. Let's read this. Did not like it. For some quick, like, context, I enjoyed the Caraval series enough. It's like a solid, like, 4 stars. Wasn't like my favorite, wasn't like my least favorite, like a solid series. Once Upon a Broken Heart, so good. That series was so much better, which I think is a fine thing to say. Like, a writer is supposed to grow as they continue to write, so it makes sense that a second series from this author is better than the first. This novella follows the characters from the first series, so it's been like a minute since I visited them. Like, I don't know. So let me say this. I don't judge novellas super harshly. Novellas are supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be for the fans. It's supposed to just be like, I love these characters. I love this world. It's great getting back to it. And so I usually don't go in with a super critical mind. I rated this 2 stars, which is really surprising for me from a novella in general. Like, last year, my lowest rating was a 3. I'm not usually super critical. Also, I'll tell you this. While I was having fun, there was a point in this book where I was like, there needs to be a trigger warning for, like, sexual assault, sexual harassment at some point. And it's not, like, explicit, it's not graphic, but for me, I got really uncomfortable, and then it was later, like, written off to be like, oh, no, it wasn't actually that because this and this, and I was like, I still felt really uncomfortable when I was reading it. Like, I get, without spoiling, I get how it was trying to be written off, but as the reader, while I was reading the initial scene, I was still very uncomfortable, and I was like, I'm not having a good time. So that's the reason I gave it 2 stars. Like, it just, I mean, I haven't seen the characters in a minute, but a lot of things felt out of character. It just felt uncomfy. Like, I was not vibing with this at all, which was disappointing because I was looking for just, like, a fun, light, quick, fluff holiday read, and I didn't get that. From, like, a business standpoint, I really think we could have benefited from an Evangeline and Jack's novella instead. Or even just doing, like, half, like, the Caraval characters and half Once Upon a Broken Heart characters would have been a better read. But yeah, was not a fan of this at all. 2 stars. You're welcome to read it and give it your own opinion. I wasn't a fan. So that was the first book. Off to a great start for this reading year, by the way. 2 stars. The second book I picked up was an arc I was super excited to get. This is Carving Shadows into Gold by Bridget Kemmer. I've been a fan of this author so long and I can't say her last name. I'm so sorry. I'm really bad with names, which is really funny because I have a name that's hard to pronounce too. Anyway, Bloomsbury was so nice to send me this. By the way, I love Bridget's books. I have the Defy the Night series right here. Actually, let me change what I just said. Bridget books for me are either I love them, or, like, I see the potential but this needs work. And it always kind of fluctuates between the two. So this book is the second series in the Cursebreakers world, right? So Bridget has the curse breakers, right? Curse so dark and lonely, a heart something, a curse, a vow so bold and deadly, a heart so fierce and lonely. I'm like trying to remember what these titles were. That's her first series. Loved the first book. I loved a curse so dark and lonely. Second book, third book, did not like at all, which is really unfortunate because I really liked the one. I didn't like where the plot took us. I didn't like the decisions character made. And I'll say this because it's part of this book. I loved originally Ren, Harper, Gray, loved them all. By the end of the original series, did not like Ren. It was iffy on Gray. Okay, then you get into your second book. I'm blanking on the first book in this series' name. It's something with an F and something regarding a sword. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. I'm blanking on it. Loved that book. At that point in that book, so then this series is from Taiko's perspective, with a bunch of new characters added, of course. At that point, I still didn't like Gray. I didn't like Gray anymore from the first book in this series. And I get, like, he's king, he's got responsibilities. I don't know, I didn't like him. So anyway, but I liked the book. The book was great. Picked up this book. I read this in one sitting. I will always say this. Bridget's writing really is like classic YA fantasy that I love. Like her writing, the world she builds, I never have any issues with it because it's always like classic YA fantasy. When I say YA fantasy is my favorite genre, I'm talking about this type of writing. Like it's classic. Like I don't know another word for it except it's classic. I will say though, this is the second book in a trilogy and it feels like a second book in a trilogy. Like it has, people talk about second book syndrome, filler books. It kind of did feel like that. Like there was important things happening and important developments that I'm going to get into in a second, but it just felt slow despite the fact that I read it in one sitting. It felt slow. Like at a certain point I'm like, really, I have this much left? Like what else could possibly happen? Because nothing is happening. And like there were things happening, but I just felt like, I don't know, it just felt slow. Like it was a decent read. Like I wasn't bored, but I wasn't like super entertained or captivated the way I am sometimes by Bridget's books. And so I'll say the other series she has out, Defy the Night, which is the one back here, which is Separate World. Every single book in that series captivated me completely. I don't know what it is about the Curse Breakers world that's always like hit or miss for me. It's never completely all hits the way Defy the Night was. I don't know if it has to do with like we keep changing POVs from different sides of the world each time, or like what about it, or there's just so much time like they spend journeying. I don't know. So the pace was a bit off for me, but I will say, so I gave this 3.5 stars, by the way. I will say the character development in this book, top tier. So good. I love Taiko. Being in his brain, I was like, damn, like you're going through it. I feel so bad for you, but I respect his resilience so much. And then you have Jax and Kaylin, and do we get any other POVs? I think it's just those three. Every character had so much growth. Like by the end of this book, I liked Ren, which considering how much I didn't like him, and it's not even like I liked him like he's been redeemed, like I have so much more respect for him now. So I think from a character development side, like we see them grow, and we also see so much like more of like understanding them. And so, you know, maybe that's the trade-off, right? And instead of like super intense plot points and action, we get more character development. I do believe though you can kind of have both. So I really liked the character development in this one, but I kind of needed a bit of a faster pace. But I am excited for the third book. Very excited to see where this takes us. I still don't like Gray. I feel like that might be unpopular. The thing is, I loved him so much in the first series at the beginning, but then his choices and I'm not in general a big fan of the, what's the name of the kingdom? Sybil Shallow? Saholo? Sil Shallow. The second, not Emberfell, the other kingdom. I'm not a fan of most characters that came out of that world, except for like Jax and Kaylin, honestly. Like Liamar and Gray, I'm like iffy on. I was gonna say, I do think Taiko and Gray need a fight. I really feel like a lot of things could be resolved if they just like fought once. Like just throw a couple punches. Like I think Taiko deserves to beat him up at least once. Anyway, so that was the second book I read. So starting off the year with a 2 stars and 3.5. By the way, 3.5 is not a bad rating in my opinion. Like it's like a middle. In case you were gonna get like up in arms about it, chill. Okay, that's the 2 books. So I'm gonna try to read another one today, or just like today or tomorrow. Look, I'm not rushing. I have 5 days. I'm gonna pick another book though while looking at my shelves and talking to you guys. Oh, and here's the other thing. The 5 books have to be off of my TBR, which is this. Let me see if I can show you guys. This giant thing. By the way, this is the top of a card. If you go down, It's a whole cart. So there's a whole lot of books I could pick from. So I started this one. I started my e-arc of this one and then never finished it because I'm a mood reader. But I think I'm going to read this one next. So I think I got to in the e-arc like maybe 50 pages in. Not much at all. But now that I have my physical copy, what are the words on this? In long grass, the serpent is king, period. I actually want to buy the UK copy of this book. I don't know why I haven't ordered it yet. Okay, so the next book I'm reading is Serpent Sea. I will give you my thoughts after, and then I'll pick the next two books with you guys and give you my thoughts after that. Let's go. Alright, so I finished Serpent Sea last night. What is it with this year and none of these reads meeting my expectations? I'll just say, I gave it 3 stars, which isn't bad, by the way. 3 stars is not a bad rating. I had higher expectations for this book, though. So, this Serpent Sea is a sequel to Spice Road. Loved Spice Road. One of my top reads of last year. Not last year, 2023 when it came out. However, this book just felt slow. Like, there were times when I was, like, in the middle of this, I'm like, why did I pick this book for this challenge? Like, I'm not gonna finish in time. Like, it's dragging. There were points where I considered DNFing, which is crazy for an anticipated read for me. But it was just so slow. Like, it was dragging so much. I think the plot went too many places, but still felt slow, if that makes sense. Like, we did a bunch of different directions and a bunch of different, like, this person did this and this person did this. Like, a lot of things were happening, but it still somehow felt slow, which I don't fully understand. That being said, like, I gave it 3 stars. The ending was good. The ending, I was like, whoa, so much is happening. I was on the edge of my seat. There were parts of this book where I was, like, sick to my stomach with the colonialism and the imperialism that's demonstrated in this book, and it's so, like, it's written so well. But then just, I think the pacing of the stories where it really threw me off, and that's why I gave it 3 stars. Some of the characters also, in my opinion, kind of just acted a little bit out of character. Like, sometimes, like, this character would do something, I'm like, this doesn't match with book 1 you. And it's not even in terms of, like, growth, it just sometimes would feel out of character. That being said, 3 stars isn't a bad rating. I'm going to give the next one when it comes out a fair chance, like, fix this. Sometimes, you know, second book syndrome is a very real thing. We could have a very, like, mid-second book and a fantastic conclusion to a trilogy. So, I'm going to hold out hope. We'll see. But this was my 3rd read of the 5 reads for the first 5 days of 2025. That's a tongue twister. Say that 3 times fast. 5 times fast. So that was book 3. Not off to a great start. I'm, like, looking for my 5-star read. Then I read the Demon Slayer manga. So I had said this year, you know, last year I got into manga with JJK and Haikyuu. This year I want to get in with Demon Slayer because I'm caught up on the anime and, like, I'm waiting for the movies to come out that's coming out later this year, but, like, I want to read the manga. So I started at the beginning, as I always do with mangas, even if I've seen the animes, and I read volume 1 last night of Demon Slayer. Mangas for me are always just, like, 5 stars because, like, I already know the stories, like, nothing's gonna be disappointed because I've watched the anime first. So I gave easy 5 stars. So that was book 4 of the 5 reads for the first 5 days of 2025. It is now January 5th. I have 1 day to pick a book and finish it. So we're gonna pick a book together. I don't know if I'm gonna stick with fantasy. I don't have to. Like, the challenge was never 5 fantasy books. I've just happened to pick up 5 fantasy reads. The only requirements is that it's a book off my TBR and I finish it before the end of the day today. What should we pick? I feel I also don't want to cheat and pick a super small book because I only have the rest of today to finish it. Like, why not challenge myself? You know what? We're doing another fantasy. Never call me a coward. I'm going to be reading The Lady and the Lion. This is by Amana Qureshi. I have read her other book. She has a couple books out. She has actually a book coming out this month. The Baby Dragon Cafe, I think. I read her other book, If I Loved You Less. I have a lot of her other books. I just never get around to them. So we're doing it right now. The Lady and the Lion. I've heard amazing things about this book from Ayushi. It's a duology. I have both books. Gonna read this today. Keep you guys updated. I'm finishing this challenge today. Don't doubt me. So about that, you know, I don't think there's any shame in acknowledging when you can't do something. And I could not actually read this book in the amount of time I had left in January 5th. And that's okay. And it's not, you know, it's not even about, like, reading speed or thickness of the book. this book, like, it and I didn't vibe very well in the beginning. So that, like, of course, isn't enticing for me to read it in one sitting. Like, it's not keeping me captivated. And then I was, like, having some issues with, like, the characters are Muslim, but it's a fantasy world, which always is, like, it's not impossible to do right, but I wasn't, like, loving the way it was done. So, by the way, I'm not DNFing. I'm not giving it a bad rating. Like, I'm still gonna finish it. Like, I'm only this far in. Like, I got a lot to read. A lot could change. I could end up loving this book. But in terms of the challenge of the 5 books in the first 5 days of 2025, this book was not vibing with me for me to finish it in this challenge. We'll be finishing on my own. We'll review it separately. Nothing wrong against this book. No hate. So, for the challenge, did I finish the challenge? Yes, I did. Because you know what I did? I was like, this isn't vibing with me. Let me go read what is vibing with me, because in the end, I am a mood reader. I went and read more volumes of Demon Slayer. I think that I read, like, volumes 6 and 7, like, right away. No, I read volume 1. Duh. Brain. I had read volume 1 on day 4, I think, of this challenge. So I've now read up to, like, volume 8. But on that day, I read, like, volume 2 and 3. I read a couple more. Whatever. I've met 5 reads. So there you have it. I have read 5 books in the first 5 days of 2025. I did it. I had succeeded at this made-up challenge I did for myself, which is still really exciting because I wanted to do it. Reading year so far is off to a bit of a rocky start, not gonna lie. The only 5-star reads I've had so far are the Demon Slayer manga, which have made me cry already. To be expected. I watched the anime. I know I was getting into. I'm still searching for a 5-star read, but you know, I just got some really exciting book mail. If you follow me on Instagram and TikTok, you already know. So hopefully we'll be getting even more 5-star reads this year, and it'll be an incredible reading year for us all. Well, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.